Hi friends, welcome to WebChamp. In this video, I'm going to discuss incremental refresh in Power BI, how you can set up incremental refresh, how you can define the policy to refresh the data incrementally in Power BI. So for example, you are refreshing one data set for the multiple years. But let's say from 2016 or from 2018, you are refreshing a data. But your actual data gets changed for last 1 year or one or more, or almost for 2 years. Okay. Prior to 2 years back, your data is not going to change. So in that case, if you use the direct connection, the normally you can use with import mode, and then you can perform the refresh. But at the time of refresh, what it will does, it will refresh all the data from 2016 or 18 until till date, right? But your changes, meaning your data is not going to change until 2021, until 2022, and your data might get changed from 2023 onwards. Okay, so just as an example, so you may want to refresh the data for the specific period where your data gets updated. So there incremental refresh comes in the picture. So what it does, it is just allows you to refresh the change the data or for the refresh the data for the specific period instead of refreshing the entire data set for the whole year. Instead, this is useful when you are using a large data set. Okay, useful meaning obviously it is useful when working with large data sets because you don't need to refresh entire data set using incremental refresh. So what it does, it improve the performance obviously, and reduce the resource consumption. Meaning, if you refresh the large amount of data, it will consume the amount of memory and CPU power also to process that data. But if you refresh the small amount of data, obviously it will consume the less resources, right? So incremental refresh, what it does, extends the scheduled refresh operation by providing automated partition creation, meaning how it will work. So we will understood that how partitions are created and how the refresh is managed in Power BI service while performing incremental refresh. So using incremental refresh, what will happen? So refreshes are faster. So you need not to wait for such a long time until uh, till the time your entire data set refresh gets finished. You do not need to wait. Only part of that data set we will refresh using incremental refresh. This is more reliable. Long running connections to volatile data source aren't necessary, meaning unnecessarily you are not going to make the connection for the very long time with the data sources, meaning if you are using a say, SQL database, any kind of SQL database. Okay, so you will block one connection with that source for the very long period if you do not use this. So we can avoid that. So this reduce the potential for the network problem to interface. Then resource consumption is reduced. So we saw that it consumes the less memory as the data is less for the refresh. Then large semantic models are enabled, meaning semantic models with the potentially billions of rows can grow without need to fully refresh the entire model with each refresh. Every time you do not needs to refresh the entire data set. And in Power BI, the setup is very easy. Okay, so how it works? What we need is, first we need to load the data. Okay, for the entire data set, we will perform the import operation first, and then we will see how we can set up what parameters we need to create and how it will work. Okay, so this is a blank report I have taken. So I'll go and okay, not this. Let me, instead of save, I should say save as. Okay, and then go to the more option. Browse this device. If I come to the download, so here Power BI increment refresh. Instead of Power BI, I would like to say sales data increment refresh. I am just going to give you one sample demo. Okay, fine. So it's not like that this works with the SQL databases only. You can use any type of data source since we are importing this. See, incremental refresh is always or mostly used with the import mode only. So we have to import the data. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I am going to use one of my lake house or warehouse. Okay, so if I come to this fabric, so here my data is sitting inside this online cells. Okay, so I will open this. So this is what my warehouse. This houses a data for me, and I will I will create a new query to get the data from this. Okay, and this is what my query. But before that, what I need is I need a connection property. So if I come here, SQL connection string, I will copy and I will paste that connection string here in the SQL server. So SQL server database. You can use any one of these. Both will work. One is for analysis service or another one is SQL server. So any connector will work for you. So this is what my server details. Then here your database. So always use database as your fabric item name. So this is online sales. If I come here, so this is what my database. You can see if you are familiar with the SQL server. So this is the structure or this formatting is used to access the data from the database. Okay. So here I used this. Import mode, obviously we will use, and here I have to paste the SQL statement. So I'll copy this entire statement. I don't need this as it is. Okay, I don't need this also. Uh, why? Because I already specified the name, database name here. So I'm not passing the database name here. Okay, and now I will say okay. So it may ask for the credentials. So in that case, we will select, but it is not asking. Okay, since only same tenant I'm using. Okay, this is fine. So now I am going to load this data. Okay, this is a very large data set. This may take couple of minutes because it has 13 million plus record. So it will start pulling the records. I'm just trying to import. And if you see the current time is 9:07. So let's see how much time it took to get all the data in this Power BI file. Okay. So here you can see that I have loaded 6.75 millions of rows in this. Right. So here I'll rename this as a factor sales. Okay. So you can load the other tables also, no matter. So once you have a data and so how incremental refresh is going to work. So using incremental refresh, Power BI service dynamically create a partitions and separate the data that needs to be refreshed frequently. Uh, okay, so here you can see this in this window, meaning it create a partition. Okay, for the incrementally refresh data and archive data. So how to do that? So to do this, what you need to do is first you need to create two parameters in a Power BI. How to create a parameter? So you can create a parameters. Okay, uh, you can create a parameter in the query editor. So let's go to the transform data, and inside a query editor you can create two parameters. What should be the name of those parameters? So you need to use this exact name as it is, range start and range end. This is case sensitive. If you missed to maintain the names like this, it will not work. So let's create two parameters. So if I go to the parameter and if I say manage parameter, so here I will say range start. Data type for this is date and time, and let's set this as any value. Okay, so I have a data here for 2020 and 2021, 2020 and 2021, 2 years, right? And here you can specify range start, meaning from which period you would like to refresh the data. So you're supposed to use the most recent date, but here I don't have data for the current year, so I'm using date according to the data set. Okay, and date format, if you look here, it's mmddyy. So same format we will use. So I'll say 10/01. Instead of 10, I would say 04/01/2021. Then space colon 00. Okay, so this should be AM. Okay, this is my start date. Again, I would like to create new parameter. That parameter name should be range and date. Date and type, date and time type, any value. This, and here I will say 12/31, 12/31 and 21. So this is, we will just use this, okay, to filter the data, right? So what we did is we created a parameter. So these two parameters are not going to play any kind of role in incremental refresh. This is just for the initial setup you need to use. Okay, if your date is not going to cover a specific period, that is fine, because whatever the policy we will define for it, that will be used. This will be automatically internally changed. Okay, so when you configure the incremental refresh in Power BI desktop, these parameters are used to filter only a small period of data that is loaded into the model. That's the purpose of this parameter. Okay, so when Power BI desktop publishes a report to a service, so when we will do that, meaning when we will publish. So obviously once we set up the incremental refresh policy. So how to set up and all, we will see here, right? So that we call it as a configural in incremental refresh policy. So we have created two parameters. This is range start parameter. This is range end parameter here. And now apply the filter for the table. Okay, so this is my date key. So you have to use the date and time data type column to filter, because we are going to use the same type of parameter. So here if I go and select date and time filter, okay, and let's say custom filter, here You should not use is equal to sign. Okay, always you need to make sure that you should not use is equal to sign. So here I'll use is after or equals to. Then I will say date para. Okay, date, no, not that, this is a parameter. Again I will say and is before, I will use is before range ended. So this is how we have applied the filter. So if you look in this expression, make sure that you are not using is equal to, only is equal to sign. So if it is greater than or is equal to, it is fine. If it is less than, it is fine. But you should not use only is equals to sign here to filter the data. Right. So this is one setup you need to do, and I am going to close and apply. So this will load the partial data for me, right? So this is refreshing a query parameter. This is refreshing the table, and it will load the data as per the date we have passed. So very small amount of data we will load. Okay, so earlier I have loaded 6.75 millions of rows. Now I am not going to load that much. It may load few rows. Again, this will take some time because we are under the setup. So let's wait to get the data loaded for the specified date range. So this may load few rows, meaning obviously we have filtered the data for the specific date range. So this is not going to load the entire data set. But what it does, it will load all the rows and then it will filter out. So this is a different story, right? But you need to wait until it loads all the rows, meaning 6.75 rows it will load from the source, and then it will filter out the rows as per the filter we have applied for based on the start and end date. So we are almost done with the data import. So this should stop here, right? Yes. So these many rows are loaded from the source, but only as per the filter 32, meaning 3.285 million of rows have been loaded, right? So whatever the filter we have applied is working, right? So now what you need to do is, once you define this start date and date parameter, once you filter the data, once you load the data into the Power BI model, you need to define the incremental refresh policy. So how to define this? So go to the table. Okay, you can do a right click or you can click on this ellipsis in front of that table, where or for which table you have to set up the incremental refresh. Then go to the incremental refresh. Okay. So here you can see that unable to confirm if M query can folded. So this is just a warning. You need not to worry about. It is recommended to use incremental refresh with non-foldable queries. It is not recommended to use incremental refresh, meaning if query folding is not possible, right, and query folding is possible with the databases only, right? So if you are using SQL um, databases, then it will be uh, it will work like this, we can say. Okay, it is fine. So refresh large data set faster with the incremental refresh. This we will do. And when the setting, whatever the setting we will define here, will apply when you publish the data to the Power BI service. Once you do that, you won't be able to download it back to the Power BI desktop. Meaning reports with incremental refresh, you won't be able to download into the Power BI desktop. So you cannot see this. This will only work on the service only. So setup, we are here, we are setting up So fact cell, this is what my table. I would like to set up the incremental refresh for this. Then here you need to enable this. So set import and refresh range. Okay, obviously we will set. So as I said, we have a data for 20 and 21, right? So this will work from the current date. So if I say I would like to refresh the data for 1 year, and just as an example, out of that I would like to refresh the data for the 6 month. Okay, so you can see here for the 6 month, meaning current month, it will go back for the 6 month, and this is October month, so it has picked last date of the current month, and this range it has picked from prior to this incremental refresh period. Okay, so incremental refresh data starting always, you should specify the period from the current date. Since I don't have data for 2024, I would like to refresh the data for uh, previous years, meaning 2021. So what I will do, I will use 4 years. Okay, so this will not work. Why? Because total, meaning your range, this range should contain these 4 years, meaning this archive data starting from should always start, or should be greater than, this number should be greater than, or this period, I can say, not number, this period should be greater than the incrementally refreshed data starting. Okay, so here what I did, I specified 5 years. So what it will does, it will refresh the data from 2019 to 2020, 31st December 2020. How this works, or how this calculation happens, how this calculation works, we will understood here separately. Okay, so for example, your data set has a data from 2016. Okay, so your data set, so you have imported that data, but you might have created a range, start start from 2022. Okay, 01 hyphen 01. Okay, so this is a start range period. So you have loaded the data for this specific period as an initial setup. So this 31st, and then 10, and 2024. Okay, instead of 10 I will use 12. This should be 31st. So last date of the current year. So for this period only you have loaded the data. Now what you will do is you are going to set up a policy. Set up policy. Okay, to set up policy, there are two parameters. Okay, two things you need to set up. First one is archive data starting. Okay, so archive data starting. Okay, let me correct this. So here you can specify the values in the terms of period. You can see here in the terms of day, month, quarters, and years. Okay, so my current year is 2024. My current year is 2024. So what is the total difference of, let's say, 8 or 9 years, right? I can say, because including 2024 or 2016, we will get the number as a 9. Okay, difference if you get, so 16 will be excluded. I don't want to do that. I want to consider, so I take the difference as a 9 year, because total period 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and then remaining for 9 years of period will be there. So what you will specify here, you would like to get the data for the 9 years in starting period. meaning archive data starting. Okay. So here, even if I show you, I will say 9 years. So you can see that, uh, okay, 8 years. So it will start refreshing the data. Okay. By subtracting, meaning the current year will be excluded from this. So the number is 8 here. I considered current year. I do not consider this. Okay. So 8 years. So it will start refreshing the data from 1st Jan 2016 to whatever the period we have. But this to 12/31/2021, meaning the end date for the archive data archive will be changed based on this number of year you passed. Okay, so here what you need to do is, meaning you are going to refresh the data for previous 2 years. Okay, so here I passed as a 8 years. So now increment data or incrementally refresh data starting. So what should be what should you pass here? So if you want to refresh the data for 1 year, so this will be a current year. Okay, it will refresh the data only for the current year. Automatically, this range will be changed to 2023. If I go and refresh the data, okay, if I go and refresh the data for 2 years, what it does? It will refresh the data for the current year and previous year automatically. Okay, meaning you do not need to worried about this partition and all how this partition works, right? Then if I go and if I say here as a 3, okay, so it will start refreshing data for previous 3 years. If I use 4, it will refresh the data for 2021 and 2021 to till date. Okay, if this gets changed, meaning let's say we are in 2024, when new year, here I passed as a 4 years. When new year comes, now 2025 begins, right? So 8 years, automatically what it will do is, based on this 8 years period, your year current year is 2016. 2016 will be changed to 2017. Will be changed to 2017. Why? Because next year when year gets changed, this calculation is happening on the basis of current year, right? So this will get changed. Similarly, this will also get changed. Okay, so this 2021 will be changed to 2022, and from 2022 onwards, meaning 1st Jan 2022 onwards, your data will get refreshed. So this is the policy. This you need to uh, handle this very carefully, because if you do a mess up, it might leads to incorrect data, right? So you need to check the range. So very simple validation is that this archive data starting is going to import the data for 1st Jan 2016 to 31st October 2022. Okay, both the dates are inclusive, and incrementally it is going to refresh from the next day, meaning 1st Jan 2021. So this, there is no overlap between two periods, right? So this is what you need to make sure. So you can pass the number of years as per your wishes. I'm going to pass here, and I'm passing 4 years here because I want to refresh the data. I don't have data for the 2022, 2023, 2024, so I am passing 4, so that I would like to see how the partition is happening in the Power BI service for this incremental refresh. Okay, fine. So next setup is, so this is what you defined here. You defined archive starting date and incrementally refresh date. So now there is something called choose data optional setting. So if you select the first option, get data in real time with direct query. Okay, so this select table cannot be folded for direct query. So this is And this is not possible. That's why it is not, because we used import mode, right? Then you or let's say there is there may be another limitation that you should have premium on license only, okay, for this. Then another options is only refresh complete year. Only refresh. What will happen if I select only refresh complete year? Okay. See, if I select completed years, you can see here 2024 is not completed, right? So if I select this, this will refresh until 2023. So when 2024 will get refreshed, then and then only it will add the 2024 year, meaning after the 31st December 2024. This is what I don't want, so I will untick this. Detect data changes. So if you select this, you can detect, okay, meaning only refresh data in last 4 years if the maximum value of the date time column changes. And here you can specify the column. If the maximum value of this column gets changed, then only it will refresh, otherwise it will not refresh. So again, this kind of setting you can perform. And here you can see that review and apply 5 years before refresh date. Refresh date is current date, right? Today we are going to refresh, so it will consider today's date as a refresh date. And incremental refresh is going to refresh the data for 4 years before the refresh date, meaning from 4 years past, right? So this is your incremental refresh policy you define. Here now, whatever the parameter range started and ended you have defined, that will be overridden in the service based on the policies, whatever the refresh policy. So now you can see that, okay, I would like to show you something that in this table, okay, if I come, I will create two columns to demonstrate this. Okay, so how it works. So let me say new column, because you can see that I have not loaded the data for all the range. So here I will select and I will pass. Okay, one column I have created. You can see that I have only 1 year data, 2021. So there is no data for 2020, right? But still, how this will work, it we will see. Then let me say month, and I am going to bring the month number here, right? So this is my interest. Year I would like to bring here, then go to the setting. Instead of range, I would like to see a drop down, right? Drop down for the values. So if I select drop down, there is only one value called 2021. So in the slicer, in the setting, in general, okay, slicer headers, slicer setting, or slicer values. So I would like to increase the size of this. You will be able to see this is there is a 2021. Now let's create a copy of this and add the month here. So for 2021, we have April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December data. We don't have data for the March, February, and January for 2021 year, because there is no data for, meaning whatever the data we have loaded, that's got separated because we set up the filter from April to 31st December based on the range started and ended, right? But that would get overrid. So now once you define the policy, your next job is to save and publish the report to the service. So I already saved this. So I will, okay, this is saving. Okay, now I will say publish this report. If you click on the publish button, it will show you all the workspaces. Okay, so what I will do is I will go and I will say test API. I will select this workspace, or instead of this, I'll select webcam as a workspace. Okay, so I have many workspaces in service, right? So now this is not needed for me. Let me go back to the webcam workspace. So here I have a couple of reports. I am publishing one more report. So sales data incremental refresh. So this report will get added here. You will be able to see. Once this get published, this report will be shown here. Okay, let's wait until this gets finished. Once you publish the report on the service, okay, what you need to do is you need to configure the connections for it. Okay, and you need to define the data gateway and all. You can schedule this, that is fine. Okay, this is still under the refresh, and once you set up the connection and all, you will be able to trigger or schedule the refresh. So first we will go for the data source credentials. We will fix this, and then we will see how to refresh this. Okay, so if I refresh this, you will be able to see that sales report here inside the web job. Okay, sales data incremental refresh. This report I published just now. You can see that today's date and time here. Right. So what I will do, I will go to the setting. To go to the setting directly, you can click on this ellipsis and then click on the setting, or you can directly click on this schedule refresh. So you will come to the schematic model settings. Right. So here, if you come down, okay, so there is a default. You can see the warning here. We cannot refresh the semantic model because this semantic model uses a default data connection without explicit connection credentials. Please replace the default data connection with the semantic model setting with an explicit cloud or gateway data connection. So you need to define this. This is defined. Okay, so what you can do is you can create a new connection, and y- you can define the new connection here like this. So if I go, because this is a cloud connection, so this is going to make a cloud connection. Okay, you can see that by default it has selected cloud here instead of on premises and virtual network. Connection name you can give. Server we have already given. Okay, and connection name you can say here is sales demo. Okay, inc refresh, incremental refresh. This is what my connection name. So we are defining a cloud connection here. This is database and authentication method. You can select auth2. Then here I'll say edit credentials. It will pop up to select your Microsoft account by using that account you have logged in. So I selected. Don't select anything else. Organization privacy level you can keep. This is your label, and allow this connection to be utilized with either on-premises data gateway or VNet. So you can enable, you can leave this as it is. So I will say create. Okay. So now what I did is I created a one connection for us. And instead of using default connection, I will go and I will select whatever the connection parameter I am meaning connection I have set up here as a sales demo incremental refresh. And then I will say apply. Okay. Right. So this warning has gone now. Now you will be able to schedule the refresh. So you can go here, you can say schedule refresh. If you want to refresh it daily, you will be able to, you will or weekly, you will be able to do this. Right. So I'm not going to schedule refresh here. So instead of this, what I will do is I will trigger the refresh manually. Okay. And let me show you something. This refresh, since we are refreshing, okay, since we are okay, I sorted this, I think, based on this. Huh. Since we are refreshing this manually, I'll go and I'll trigger this. The current time is 9:46. Now let's see how much time it took to get finished this refresh. This is the first time refresh we have triggered after setting up the incremental refresh. So what it will does for me, okay, it will go and apply the incremental policies. It will go and apply the incremental policies. According to the defined policy, it will create two partitions. One is for the archive data. The data will be refreshed, meaning it will load the data from whatever the period or whatever the policy we have defined here. So based on the policy, what kind of policy I used here? So I used 4 years, 5 years period, right? So 5 years I used. So from 2020, sorry, 2019 onwards until December 2020, it will refresh the data only once, meaning first time it will refresh the data. It will keep the data. It will internally it will create the partition for the 2020, and then the data for the 2021 will be refreshed, created a partition and refresh. Okay. So now you will be able to see how this works, but that view you can't see in Power BI service. So this may take a couple of minutes to finish the refresh. You need to refresh this workspace, this entire page link, and then you need to wait until this refresh get finished. We triggered this refresh at 9:46. So we will see at what time this will get finished for the first time, and then again we will do an analysis. Again we will trigger a refresh, and we will see how much time it took to get the refresh. Meaning, see how we our purpose is to see how it affect the refresh time of data set using incremental refresh. Right. So here the refresh gets completed. Refresh is finished, and as we know that we triggered the refresh at 9:46. This has taken almost 6 minutes of time uh, to finish or to refresh the entire data set. Okay. So now here, if in this case, okay, in this case, we saw on the desktop that we have data only for the 2021 and for the period of April onwards till December. But if I go on this service and if I open that report, so here you will be able to see the data for the previous period also, right? For 2022 or 20, sorry, not 2022, 2020. And if I refresh this, meaning from 2020, okay, so I have a data for June, July, August, September, October, and December, meaning the data set houses a data. If I select 2021, you will be able to see that January, February, March month data. Right. This is what not I was able to see in this report, because January, February, and March is not there when we define the policy, right? So in service, it has loaded the data. In service, what it has done, it has loaded the data as per our incremental policy, right? So for the previous period also it has loaded the data. For the current period, it has loaded the data. Now on first refresh, what it does, it refresh the entire data set. Full refresh it will perform. But if you trigger the refresh, or we can say that in subsequent refresh, earlier it has taken 6 minutes of time. Now let's see how much time it will take. So now we are triggering at 5:56, and if I refresh this should not take a time more than 2 minutes, right? I triggered. This is not going to refresh all the tables. This will refresh only a table according to the policy, meaning a table from 2021 onwards, right? And it is going to create, because we use the date parameter, it is going to create a meaning partitions based on the year. Why? Because while defining a policy, while defining a policy, what we did is we used years here, right, as a period tag, or as a period. Year is a period we use. So as per the period, it will create partition. Okay, so this is we are still refreshing this. Okay, and let me refresh. You need to wait until this refresh get finished to see the impact of this scheduled refresh. Sorry, the incremental refresh. This should not take much time. Okay, this is getting refresh still. Okay, 2 minutes. We have not yet completed. We have completed only 1 minute. Okay, so you can see that within a 2 minutes, exactly in 2 minutes, this refresh got finished. Right. Earlier, it has taken 6 minutes of time. So this is the impact of incremental refresh. So every time, whenever you trigger the refresh, it will create two partition. One is for the archive data, and another one is for incrementally refresh data, and it will refresh the data. If you enable this, okay, while setting up the policy, if you enable this real-time data, it will create another partition. Okay, not this query. I don't want to edit. I would like to edit the incremental refresh policy. So if you enable this first option, so it will create one more partition to refresh the data increment, meaning it will create one more partition for the real-time data or direct query data. But now my interest is to see the partitions. Okay, so in Power BI service, you will not be able to see the partitions for this database, but you will be able to see this in SSMS. Okay, so if I open the SSMS, okay, so here you need to specify the server. Okay, and obviously to use this, what you need is you need a premium capacity workspace. For this workspace, this is the workspace. What I have is a pro. I might need to upgrade this workspace license. So I will go and I can use this premier per user, or I can use this trial. This is a fabric, and I can enable this large semantic model storage formats. So this may take a time. So I'm selecting here, but you will be able to select this also. And then select license. Once I upgrade the license, I'm able to see this connection link. Okay. So this is my server link. So if I paste that server link here, right? If I paste that server link here, and if I say connect, so setting, you need to look for this setting, the server name, server type is analysis service, authentication is Microsoft Entra EMFA, IMFA setting multi-factor authentication, and then you are supposed to use your email ID or username, whatever the username is there. So this has made the connection with the Power BI service as an analysis service. Then I'll expand this. So you will see all my report names here. Okay. All my report names, data modeling, live connection, order reports, sales data incremental refresh. All these are like a databases on the service, right? So that's why I can say that the Power BI service is nothing but analysis service. Okay. And if I go to this sales data incremental refresh, this is our table. You will be able to see the connections if have made the connections. Okay, so no connections is stored inside this database. No roles are stored inside this database, but this is the table, right? And we have created this will get created based on the parameters what we have created. So this is my table, and if I right click on it, and if I click to see the partitions, if I so let's wait to enable this. Okay. So what it has done, right? As I said, we have selected the period as a year. So by year, it has created a partition for 2019. Like whatever the policy we have defined here. If I go here and if I say incremental refresh, so our refresh start from 2019, right? And archive period ends at 2021. So here you will be able to see that meaning before 2021 your data archive period is ended. Internally it creates the partition by year for the data, and here you can see that the for 2019 the data got refreshed at 9:48, right? This is fine because there is no data, so it got finished immediately. This partition refresh get finished at 9:50 for 2020, and the entire report was finished at 9:52 or something. It has taken us 6 minutes of time, right? So for 2021 you can see that I triggered a refresh on 9:56, and it shows me 9:57 minutes, 9 hours 57 minutes and 54 seconds as a last processed or last refreshed time, right? So when I triggered refresh second time, it has not refreshed the data for 2020. It has refreshed the data for this last all these partitions, because 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024 is incrementally refreshed. So here you can see that period of 2021, 1st Jan 2021 to 31st December 2024 will be incrementally refreshed, right? So this is what the view partition view you can see in SSMS SQL Server Management Studio. You can connect to this analysis service, and then you can view how the partition happens in service. So this is the partition happens in the service. Right. Then there is something called advanced incremental refresh. So the problem is what? Simply I will tell you what is the problem. Okay. So now if I made the changes here to the policy, and then I'll say apply the changes, and then I'm going to republish this, right? If I republish this, meaning if I publish the data again on the first refresh, what it will do, it will refresh the entire data set, because we are going to refresh this. So instead of doing this, what you can do is you can update the metadata for the table from this SQL Server Management Studio. That is called XML endpoint. So semantic model in premium capacity with XML endpoints enable for the read and write operation allows for the more advanced refresh. So where you will get this option? So first of all, what you need to do is, if you come to this, go to the workspaces. Okay. And while creating a workspace, we saw there is a one option to enable the large semantic model, right? So if I go to the setting, inside the inside admin setting, there is something called workload. So you can define inside a capacity setting. Here you will be able to see that the premium Power BI premium capacity. So if you want to have the more control over the performance and scale, you need this Power BI embedded. I have a trial capacity, so this is what's showing me. Okay. And fabric capacity, if you have purchased license, then you will be able to see here the capacity and all, and then you can select the capacity, and even you can enable the large semantic models. Okay, if I go here, there is one more setting for large semantic model. Okay, let me see the setting for this large. Okay, scale out queries for large semantic. Here I enabled this, but you might need to enable this uh, manually. So once you enable this, you will be able to refresh, meaning what will happen? So if you enable the XML endpoint to write and refresh the data, so you will be able to modify the incremental policies from this here, and from here you will update only metadata. It is not, you are not going to update the entire data set. Even what you can do is, uh, you can refresh the historical data also from the SQL Server Management Studio. So let's say I would like to update this. So I am able to do this, but the problem is that here I don't have paid license, so I won't be able to perform this. But you, in case if you have a paid license, you will be able to perform this by simply enabling the read and write operation for the capacity. So here I'm unable to do that. That's why I won't be able to perform. But yeah, so this is possible using the XML endpoint if you access your database, meaning Power BI service in the SSMS as an analysis service. And if you enable the read and write setting for your capacity, Power BI premium capacity, that will work. Inside this, I think large. Okay. So while creating or while changing the workspace, we saw that there is a one setting. Okay. So if I go to the workspace setting, license info, and if I edit this from here also, you can change semantic model storage format. So you need to enable large semantic model storage format. So that you can do in from the license info or from the admin portal also. So semantic model user. Okay, so here you need to enable this allow XML endpoints, this setting semantic model, and there is a one more setting. This is not for the scale out. Okay, but that setting is also available here on this admin side also. So fabric workspaces. If I come to the workspaces, no, that is not fabric identity. This is different, and this is tenant. Somewhere I saw that data, large semantic model. But anyways, you will be able to use semantic model across workspaces. Or let me search for the storage. Storage format. Okay, this is. Hmm. So this is the option. But while editing the workspace or while changing the configuration, you will get that option also. So storage, semantic model storage format. Choose the format. So large semantic model. Even here you will be able to make the changes. So it is better to change from here, but there is a way. You will get the same option from this setting also. Okay. So right. So this is about the incremental refresh in Power BI. Power BI. I hope you like the content of this video. Thank you so much for watching the video. Have a nice day. Please do not forget to subscribe WebCharm.